Here's a very quick tip on when you create polygon primitives and how to automatically modify them to be on top of the ground plane and the pivot point at world origin without having to mess with modifying pivots. This is something I recently discovered, and it is in 2023. So whenever you create a polygon primitive, let me go ahead and open up the menu. Let's say I create a cube, and let me make it larger. By default, the cube will be created with the pivot point in the center of the object, and that pivot point will be in world origin, right at 0, 0, 0 world space. Whenever you need to modify this cube to be on top of the ground plane, usually what I would do is modify the pivot point, snap it to a bottom vertex, and then snap the object to top of the grid. Now I have to do this every time to every single polygon primitive, and usually it just gets a little annoying to do this every single time. But now in 2023, inside the inputs for every object you create, if you open up Inputs tab or the Inputs panel, you have height baseline. The default is 0, which is what you expect in every version of Maya. But if you come over here and change this to a value of 1, the object will be moved to the bottom of the grid with a pivot point in world origin. And if you change it to -1, the object will be moved on top of the grid with a pivot point in world origin and the bottom of the object. And you cannot modify this anywhere higher than -1. So if I try to -2 or 3, it won't go. And you can't go above 1. It'll just default to 1. So you can only modify anywhere between -1 to 1. But -1 is what I usually use, and it automatically places the cube or any object on top of the grid, and the pivot point remains in world origin. This is really quick, and it doesn't matter what polygon primitive I create. If I just modify every single time to just -1 baseline, height baseline, it'll just be placed on top of the grid automatically. Great little addition, and I'm glad it's now here. So begin using it.